Hello. Today we are going to talk about medicine of ancient Greece and Rome. Okay, here we go. Let's begin with the Greek civilization. So as the Egyptian civilization faded, the Greek one emerged around 700 years before Christ. The Greek civilization prevailed until the so-called end of antiquity, which was around 600 years Anno Domini. The most important word here is prevailed because Greek civilization advances were mostly inherited by Roman civilization. So, despite the Roman civilization was the more powerful than the Greek one. Still, the Greek influence was very powerful as well. So, but we'll speak about it a bit later. Greek civilization was the country which was ruled by a monarch, but the peculiarity of this civilization was that different parts of this country could have had the different style of ruling. So Greece developed the peculiar form of governmental organization such as polis or city-state. And also, we know that several areas could have had polar views on the style of the rulings, such as, for example, Athens were democratic, and others could have been dictatorships or military dictatorships like Macedonia or Sparta. Ancient Greek society was pretty rich. They could have afforded to spend a lot of time in leisure, which made possible the creation of numerous arts such as drama, comedy, sculpture, architecture, poetry. They've developed largely politics, public debates. So actually, the very important sphere of science, which is called philosophy, was designed and developed initially in ancient Greece. And to honor the complexity of this science, I need to say that the questions which were formulated in the beginning of philosophy era are still unresolved. Yeah, so this was one of the contributions of Greek civilization for the world. Also, the powerful invention made by Greek civilization was invention of a phonetic form of writing. You can see the screen, the example of the letters used by ancient Greeks on the screen, but I need to mention that this alphabet was not developed by ancient Greeks from scratch. It was firstly seen in ancient Phoenician civilization. Probably it was borrowed and further developed by ancient Greeks. Why Greek civilization was so powerful, so successful, and why it is recognized as very influential? We celebrate the advances from Greek civilization because they were among the first ones who tried to establish the natural explanation of things. And when we're speaking about medicine, it is of a great importance because they were trying to find a rational explanation on why people fall sick, fall ill, and how people should behave in order to restore their health. And this knowledge was attempted to rely on the natural reasoning. Nevertheless, there were some things, erroneous things, which were developed by ancient Greeks. For example, you can see the system of elements which exist in human body, which one was then, it is thought that it was borrowed later by other civilizations. So these beliefs also existed, but the Greeks made it huge advances in the way of getting rid of this um, supernatural explanation of things. So why ancient Greek is important for the nowadays understanding of progress of civilization? Because Greek ideas were widespread in the known world in ancient times due to military operations made by, for example, the most famous one was the conquering made by Alexander the Great when he reached the territory of modern India. So, and everywhere where the Greeks, all the territories which were visited by ancient Greeks have have the signs and the signs of Greek influence. So a lot of Greek ideas were disseminated during these military operations, and you can see the geography of this spreading. One of the results of this spreading of Greek ideas was building of the city of Alexandria. Actually, it was dedicated. The name Alexandria was due to the name of the city founder, Alexander the Great. And Alexandria was the place where the largest library existed at ancient times, and Alexandria very fast. Alexandria has become the scientific center of ancient world. Yeah, so due to the brisk and intensive exchange of scientific ideas, this library has not preserved till nowadays due to fire, but still some other mentions in other literature sources have survived, mentioning the magnitude and influence made by the scientists living in the city. So as I've said earlier, Greek philosophy, Greek scientific direction was successful because they were trying to get rid of religious ideas which were prohibiting, for example, body dissection. And the Greek philosophers such as Aristotle and Plato, they've argued that human body was not needed in the afterlife. Therefore, it is allowed to do dissection and to try to study how human body is organized and how is it functioning. Moreover, sometimes dissections were made on living people. Usually they were criminals or gladiators who were wounded during the battles, and the Colosseums, which were the places where the battles of gladiators were organized, frequently had some space for the medical investigators. And what is important to know that back at the time when if a person was dedicating his or her life, usually his life to the science, they were trying to master whatever was possible to master. So, and what I want to say is that a lot of discoveries of human body were made by people whom we usually praise for their contribution to philosophy as well. For example, Diogenes, who is famous for his life in the barrel, has described some structures in inner ear, for example. Yeah. And such people whom we praise as well for their effort made in philosophy, such as Aristotle and Plato, they also were responsible for some advances in medical sphere. So you can see on the screen some examples like surgeon hieroglyphus. There were a lot of people who were responsible for the discovery of different organs, such as hieroglyphus. He realized that brain, but not the heart, controlled the body. such people, such a guy as Aristotle discovered that blood moved through veins, although he didn't realize what was the mechanism of the circulation. So, and step by step, each scientist has contributed something new to the body of evidence, and this knowledge accumulated into the systematic image of function of the body. As I've said earlier, that ancient Greeks tried to explain the causes of illnesses by rational causes, and they were trying to argue that prayers were useless against illnesses. And for example, in Hippocrates' book called Airs, Waters, and Places, it was suggested that diseases were caused by environmental factors, but not the bad omens or religious factors, etc. But nevertheless, despite all the attempts to explain rationally the causes of diseases, still ancient Greek perspective suffered from some irrational approach. For example, ancient Greeks developed the system of 4 humors, which has survived still nowadays in quite an unexpected way when people's character is characterized according to the name of this humors. One moment, please. One moment. So we now have the classification of human character according to this system, like sanguine, choleric, or melancholic, which was originated by ancient Greek system. But back the times, ancient Greeks believed that there were 4 types of humors, or otherwise called liquids, and in human body, and the balance of these liquids was responsible for the state of health or disease. So in otherwise speaking, if there was a disbalance of these liquids, people could have fallen ill. If everything was in equilibrium, the people were healthy. Other things which were misguiding and originated from ancient Greeks' attempts to study the world was, for example, numerology. Yeah, so you know that a lot of inventions in geometry were made by ancient Greeks. Pythagoras is one of the most famous one, but not only him. For example, Thales has also made great contribution to the geometry, but he's praised as a father of philosophy. Actually, Pythagoras also contributed somewhat to philosophy, but nevertheless, the observations made using the numbers had made ancient Greeks to think that there is some relation between numbers and phenomena in nature, which could have been pretty compelling. You can see that if you will multiply 7 by 4, you will get the duration of lunar month, or the duration of a standard menstrual cycle, which is which coincide usually frequently. But if you will multiply 7 by 40, you will get 280, which is the average duration of a pregnancy. Yeah, so observing such coincidence, it is compelling to think that there is some relation behind these numbers, especially if you are lacking of knowledge, basic knowledge about functioning of human body. So the main message from this slide is that numerology existed, but in all probability, numerology is a false science, and you should not rely on numerological thesis in your professional life. One of the most famous figure in ancient Greece was Hippocrates. Hippocrates was known as a father of medicine, and he was called like that for a reason. Because Hippocrates was collecting the available to him data about medicine, and he tried to systematize this, and despite few sources of information has preserved still nowadays, still several practices are carrying his name. So what we know about Hippocrates, that he was trying to explain the causes of diseases and the directions of treatment using natural reasoning. He was trying to harmonize human body in order to improve chances of human body to resist disease and to heal. Also, despite some deficit of knowledge of anatomy, it is believed that Hippocrates' ability to observe was largely compensating for this deficit of anatomy knowledge, and he introduced some techniques which are used till today. In the surgery textbooks, you can find methods of relocation of joint dislocations which carry his name. Yeah, so they are the technique of shoulder joint relocation and hip joint relocation. And on top of the methods that Hippocrates used in his general practice, he also prescribed gymnastics, massage, hydrotherapy, and bathing in order to improve health. And also he was recommending slight diet for people who are in the state of disease. It was believed to be beneficial for sick people. And just here, I want to remind you that ancient Egyptians used pretty much similar approaches for the treatment of their patients. But the point is that ancient Greeks probably made more effort on systematizing and disseminating of these ideas. And one other thing that has survived till nowadays since ancient Greece, it was attributed to Hippocrates as well. It is the doctor's oath. It is a set of rules which determines how doctors should behave, what doctors should do and what doctors should not do. And it was a kind of the roadmap for doctors. So when a person decided to become a doctor, he should have followed the set of rules. Otherwise, he will get in trouble. And in order to memorize, to appreciate his contribution, this set of rules was called a Hippocratic Oath and is called nowadays. Nowadays we call it the doctor's oath, but still historically somebody can call it Hippocratic oath as well. So this is just systematizing what Greeks added to the medicine. It was the introduction of natural reasons. They've developed a system of four humors with which they tried to explain processes in human body. And you can see in the last paragraph that ancient Greeks also used, for example, bloodletting, as ancient Egyptians did, but for the different purpose. Ancient Egyptians tried to unblock channels according to their channel theory, but ancient Greeks used bloodletting in order to rebalance humors in human body. So kind of very interesting coincidence. And the other example of how irrational style of thinking was existing together with rational approach is the existence of Greek mythology. On the picture, you can see the statue of ancient Greek god Asclepion. You can see that Greek mythology was populated with a large number of instances which were called gods and were responsible for different spheres of human life. So there was a god Asclepius who was responsible for providing treatment to people. Yeah, he was depicted usually as a man with this stick around which there was a snake, and this is why snake was frequently associated with the Asclepion itself and with medicine in general. I will come back to this later, so you can see the example of the temple dedicated to Asclepion, where people were seeking the treatment for their diseases. And also in these temples, there was a place to the daughters of Asclepion. The names of daughters were Higiea and Panacea. These names have preserved till nowadays. Hygiene is the science of the relation between human health and environmental factors in general. And panacea is the term which describes the treatment or remedy from the large number of diseases. Yeah, and what's interesting that in such temples there was usually a place where people could have washed themselves and to take some rest, and this itself is usually recognized as a beneficial thing for organisms. So in such places, the rational approaches were combined with the rational approaches, and it was difficult to understand which of that was responsible for the improving of the condition of the people. So, and this you can see the symbol of doctors, which is used till nowadays, and the snake on this around this goblet is very likely coming from the god Asclepion. Yeah, so this snake, which is a symbol of healing, of medicine, coming from Greek mythology. Let's switch to the Romanian civilization. Romanian civilization existed very closely to the ancient Greek civilization. It has flourished a bit later than the Greek one, and very soon it has conquered huge territories, including the territory of Greek civilization. And you can see the geography of ancient Roman civilization. It was including pretty much all kind of Europe and nearby regions. It started off Rome, and this is why it is called Roman Empire. But the settlements of Roman Empire existed both in Northern Africa and Middle Asia and in the Asia, and kind of you can see this on the screen. What was peculiar about ancient Roman civilization is that they were very technical. They've made a lot of contributions to different spheres of human activities. You can see how advanced were their approaches for the city building. They were able to build cities systematically. They've designed sewers and public sanitation systems in order to make their cities a cleaner place. They were big fans of baths, so they had a network of public baths as well. They also built roads to make the communication between settlements faster. So they've made a lot of things. They've introduced their own system of legislation, etc., etc. So it's difficult to overestimate the influence that Roman Empire has made for the development of civilization. When we're speaking about medicine in ancient Roman Empire, we need to say that a lot of things, including medicine, was borrowed from ancient Greek civilization, which was conquered by ancient Roman Empire. And doctors were frequently Greeks coming from slaves. This is why, this is why doctors were not very much respected in ancient Rome, because ancient Romans pretty naturally had issues with the trust to Greeks, which were conquered by Romans. And this is why this trust was not that big, and doctors easily were labeled as cheats and charlatans. uh, given that it was still in ancient times and magical practices were very common, in case when doctor used some supernatural approach to treatment and it was not successful, this approach very quickly decreased the reputation of such doctors. This is why doctors were not of a great respect in ancient Rome. A big part of medical practices was taken by women. They were playing an important role in ancient Rome. They were dealing a lot with as midwives and participated frequently in delivering of babies and were local experts of women's health. And given that they were trusted more than slaves from Greece, they frequently filled this gap created by the ignorance of traditional doctors. Given that ancient Romans were good in manufacturing, it has opened the opportunities for these complex medical interventions. For example, at the screen, you can see the scheme of extraction of cataract. Yes, so the procedure was was described as the procedure using the hollow needle. Attention, hollow needle. Yeah, you need to be a good manufacturer to create a hollow needle, first of all. Yeah, and after that, using this hollow needle, in order to be able to make this cataract extraction using this hollow needle. So, and here you can see the description of the process. Yeah, when this hollow needle was inserted into the eye, then this cataract was ruined mechanically, and using suction, this impaired lens was extracted, which could have restored some amount of sight for the patient. Pretty impressive, yes, as for me. A lot of knowledge we know about ancient Roman medicine from the remains of the city of Pompeii. There was a tragedy in the city of Pompeii, which was buried by ash during the eruption of Mount Vesuvius. You can see on the screen the picture of a room which is called the House of Surgeon, which has preserved for a long time due to burying of this area by the eruption. Yeah, so in this room there was found the special room which was which was classified as an operational theater, and there were the remains of multiple surgical instruments. And when we're speaking about ancient Roman medicine, we need to the famous figures in this ancient Roman era included several figures, and one of the most important is Galenus. Galenus was born in Pergamum. It is modern territory of Turkey. He studied medicine in the temple of Asclepius, and after some time he moved to Alexandria. It was to his great advantage because, as you probably remember, that Alexandria there was the largest library to date in Alexandria, so this was a perfect place to study. He kind of in the Alexandria, he could have had the good experience in body dissection because in this place the body dissection was pretty frequent, and he has gathered a huge surgical practice at the time. He was studying there and returned to Rome. And during his practice, he has become the famous doctor, and he has died as a kind of leading doctor of his era. He has left a huge legacy, around 400 books, from which around one quarter was pretty famous. Despite he accepted the idea of four humors which he used in his practice, his advances in anatomy were kind of very influential. For example, he is known for his experiments when he dissected a living animal and when he irritated the spinal cord, which has led to the movement of limbs of this animal. So this is how he stated that some structures in spinal cord were responsible for the movement of limbs, not the heart or other organ. Yeah, so nowadays we know that motor neurons are responsible for the moving of limbs. And back at the time, it was unknown, and he made some steps in the direction of understanding this. He developed understanding of anatomy. What is important to say about Galenas that his legacy was pretty long-living. We'll be talking about it during our studies about Middle Ages, but we need to know for now that the ideas formulated by Galenas were living till the end of the Middle Ages. So he was very influential pretty long after his death, which was around 1,000 of years and a half. And only in the Renaissance time, the reputation of Galen was questioned and doubted by new rising stars of medicine. But till that time, his ideas were the most prevalent. Of course, and despite his despite his influence, great influence on the science, it is known also that Galen was not a pretty good person because he was criticizing his opponents pretty harshly, not always having a good backup for his arguments and pushing them using his authority. And it is known that Galenas was very eager to speak about his famous experience, about his successful experience, and not speaking a lot about his not successful experience. And when we're speaking about ancient Roman medicine, we also need to mention another person whose name is Celsus. It is not known a lot about this person. It is even unknown if this person was a doctor himself. It is thought that he was at least a scientist who was doing the compilation of existing sources of information. And it is very likely that his sphere of interest included not only medicine but other sciences. But till nowadays, only his medical work survived, which is called the Medicina. This work is carrying the knowledge about approaches to medicine which existed in ancient Roman times. And this explanation is systematized. Yes, so it is not a chaotic text, but it is distributed over the sections and gives the systematized explanation of the state of art of medicine back at times. Thank you so much for your attention. Have a great new year, great holidays, and see you next time. Goodbye.